We are Brian and Brad Manning of Two Blind Brothers, and we are doing this video series for people with Stargardts disease, which is the condition that we've grown up with. We get to interact with thousands of people who have this, and we realize there's a lot of different sources for information, and we wanted to put something together to reflect all the answers that we've shared with people over the past few years. We want to talk to you about navigating the world. How do you get around? How do you travel? We're going to really boil it down to something super simple. Reading signs, reading building numbers, and driving a car. If you have Stargardt's disease, you have decent peripheral vision. So normally if you get into a space, you aren't going to bump into a lot of things, and you're always going to kind of be able to see that bright exit sign. It's not the same typically as being fully blind.
To give you some context and maybe scare a few of you, until the age of about 21, I drove a car. From about 17 to 21, I drove, which is terrifying in retrospect. But the state of Virginia has a few modifications that you can adapt to, and then you are able to drive. So some people with Stargardt still have the ability to drive. I ultimately gave it up because I was just scared of driving. So if that gives you an idea of how much vision that you are going to have. Navigating around, especially, we'll start with the city and then we'll talk about a little bit more of a smaller space or a smaller town. Navigating around New York is very simple, basic for Brad and I. Google Maps solves 80% of 90% of the problem, where it tells you to turn left, turn right. You don't actually even need to see the street sign. It'll get you within 10 or 20 feet of your destination. And that's when the problem starts to occur. When you don't know where building 19 is or the restaurant is, you can't really see the signs. Use the greatest resource that is out there in navigation, asking someone on the street, saying, hey, excuse me, is this building 19? Some people will give you a funny look. Most people will just say yes or no and then point to it, saving you a whole bunch of time. You know, Brad and I go out into New York by ourselves all the time with absolutely zero problem. So walking around and navigating is not a giant issue.
And just to add a point on that, you know, it would be our recommendation, if you have a vision impairment and it suits everything else, get to a big city, because it's a lot easier for us to be able to leave our apartment, use public transportation, or walk around to get all the things that we need to get done completed, instead of being in our hometown in Virginia, where we'd rely on an Uber or a friend to get most places.
But on that point, if you are in a smaller town, and I can speak from experience here, Uber is your best friend. It makes everything so easy. You don't need to drive. You don't need to find locations. And frankly, you don't really need to worry about much, because you can order your Uber, set the destination, get in, and it'll bring you from door to door without any sort of hassle. New elevators in New York City with 97 floors are kind of the bane of my existence. There's two processes here. One, if you're with people as you're getting in the elevator, step all the way to the back and ask them, excuse me, can you please hit floor 35? Otherwise, just get super close to it. You'll be able to figure it out. And then don't be embarrassed if you accidentally hit 34 and then you realize it's 34 and hit 35. Just let the doors open, say, guess somebody made a mistake, and then go up one and get out. A lot of navigating while visually impaired is being able to shrug off little moments, accidentally tripping over something, hitting the wrong button on an elevator, getting in the wrong Uber, all super easy to overcome with just a laugh.
I think a lot of people are very concerned about crossing the street because they can't see the cars coming, or they don't know if the lights changed. There's a couple ways that we solve this. Is one, we kind of trust the rest of the group that's standing at the intersection. If you see people crossing, obviously look both ways, make sure you're very confident, but we tend to just use the cue of the other people that are standing there. If no one is standing there, this is something that is so critical and so useful throughout our lives, our phones that we can open up and magnify on. I can't see the little man blinking across the street. I can easily go into my camera, go into the magnifier on my phone, look, hold it up, and then I can tell if it's safe to cross the street.
Airports, that has just been that can be a point of frustration for a lot of people because everything is very high up and hard to see. Again, it all just comes back as another example. Ask somebody, ask an attendant, tell somebody at the airport, hey, I'm visually impaired, can you take me to gate B17? And they'll be more than happy to walk you all the way over there. So just use the people around you because they're, the way I see it, there to help as long as you're polite.
When traveling, when trying to get around, we find that it's helpful to be a little more cautious because you obviously don't want to cross the street, get hit by a car. But also, we're okay to be a little bit of an inconvenience. You're at the train station and there's long lines to get tickets and you don't know if you're in the right line because you can't see the sign. You know, go up and interrupt the teller at the front who's with a customer who looks very busy and not excited to talk to somebody who's cutting the line and say, hey, is this the line for whatever? There'll be somebody that looks at you like, you can see the sign, but you know what? You're not going to see them again. If they had a chance to understand your condition, I'm sure they would empathize with it. But you kind of have to assert yourself on society a little bit, and it makes your life a lot easier.
So this has been our video on navigating the world with Stargardt's disease. If you have any tips or tricks or moments you'd love to share, it means the world to both Brad and I and folks who get to see them and not reinvent the wheel with how to get around. Please help us out by leaving a comment down below with what you usually do to travel, or to just say, yeah, getting around is super easy for me. Just let us know, and thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.